Hey guys, Dr. Tobisch here again with Whitefish Chiropractic. And for the last video of our Sciatica series, we're going to talk a little bit about a rehab technique that we use here in the clinic known as DNS, which stands for Dynamic Neuromuscular Stabilization. So when patients come in with sciatica, once we get their radiating symptoms under control, we start plugging in our DNS exercises to rebalance things, strengthen them up, and help avoid re-injury. When we have trauma and injury to the body, oftentimes this results in muscle imbalance around whatever joint it is that we're talking about. So some of the muscles are going to become short and tight to try to splint and protect, and other muscles are going to become inhibited. They're going to kind of quit helping us out. And that imbalanced tension around the joint can result in increased stress and wear and tear to that joint. A good analogy to think about this muscle imbalance is like a tire that isn't bolted on tightly. Maybe a couple of the lug nuts are tight, but the other ones are loose. If you drive that car down the road, it's going to shake and wobble, that tire is going to wear down quickly, it's even going to stress other parts of the vehicle. And that's the same thing that we see when we have muscle imbalance in the body. So we use our DNS exercises to rebalance the muscle tension around that joint and allow for safe and pain-free movement. When we have injuries to the low back, things like disc injuries that can result in our sciatic symptoms, what we typically see is disturbance in core stabilization. So these big muscles next to the spine are going to get really tight to try to splint and protect, and a lot of these muscles in the abdominal wall and these other muscles that surround the spine are going to become weak and inhibited. So we plug in our DNS exercises to get balanced activity of all these core muscles surrounding the spine. If all these muscles surrounding the spine work a little bit, everybody's happy. Now that we've talked a little bit about DNS, next up we're going to show you some of the DNS exercises that we use here in the clinic to retrain proper core stabilization. Okay guys, the first DNS exercise we're going to look at is just called 3-month supine. So you'll have your patient on our back, then we're going to have her arms and legs up in the air. One of the principles of DNS is proper diaphragmatic breathing, the ability to breathe into the belly to get that good balanced muscle activity in the core. So we spend a little bit of time working on breathing into her belly. Once she can do that, use her diaphragm to breathe into her belly and get that balanced muscle activity, keeping some pressure here in the belly to activate all these core muscles. Then we move into our exercise. So we're gonna have her maintain this outward pushing pressure to keep those muscles active. Then we're gonna have her support her own limbs. Initially, we're just gonna have her working on maintaining this position. Once she can do that pretty well, we may start adding some resistance. So I'll give her some pressure and tell her, don't let me move you. This is going to help increase the activity in those core muscles. Once we've got that, we'll add in a little bit of movement. So we'll have her keeping everything the same, keeping these core muscles nice and active. Then she's going to let this leg down towards the table without letting that bend her spine. Then she'll come back up. Then we may add in arm and leg movement. Again, keeping this good core activity, keeping the spine nice and stable. This next exercise is a DNS side bridge. So just like last time, first we're going to have her work on just maintaining the position and getting the right muscle activity. Then we can add in some resistance. After that, we can add in some movement. So we're going to have Annie do one of these side bridges. So she's going to be reaching and rolling. So as she rolls forward, she's going to reach, come up on her knee. We're trying to keep everything the same. So good pressure in the belly, good muscle activity, keeping the core nice and stable. She can come on back down. Then we'll have her come up again, reach and roll, and she's going to hold this position. I'm going to give her some resistance, so don't let me move you. Again, this is going to increase the activity of all these core muscles. We'll have her come back down, and then once we get up to the point where we're adding in some movement, we'll have Annie come up again, so she's going to reach and roll, come up, and then while keeping everything nice and stable, she can add in some limb movement, so kind of reaching up with the arm and leg, coming back down. This is really going to make this a lot more of a challenging exercise. And come on back down. Next, we're going to be looking at some exercise variations out of a DNS quadruped position. So we're going to have our patient on her hands and knees. From here, again, working on good breathing and muscle activity here in the core to keep the spine in a good neutral position. Once we've got that down, we're going to add in some challenge. So we'll have the patient pick up an opposite arm and an opposite leg, trying to keep everything the same. And let's do another one. Perfect. Once we've got that down, we can add in a little bit more movement and kind of add to the challenge. So again, we're going to keep everything the same. Then we're going to have Annie kick her left leg back, trying to keep good core stability and spinal position. And come on back. Let's do one more. Perfect. Adding in that movement really adds to the challenge. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video on DNS. If you feel like you have any instability or poor movement patterns, whether that's core instability or issues elsewhere in your body, we would love to help. So give us a call at 406-862-2121 or find us online to schedule an appointment today.